Hey everybody, it's Mike Gesowich, co-founder of Teaching.com, Typing.com, and Edutyping.com. Back with another exciting episode of #AskEdutyping, where each week we field questions from our user audience, both from student and teachers all across America. We've got tens of thousands of students using our keyboarding products every day, and we're really excited each week to be able to at least communicate through our Facebook video and field your questions, and hopefully we'll be able to help you out. Each week, we start with a keyboarding tip of the week. I love this tip. I used to use it in my classroom. I taught keyboarding for almost 17 years, and this was a huge hit with my student audience inside of computer labs. It's called chit-chat keyboarding. And here's how it works. We all know that students like to chit-chat during class. It's just a natural tendency, and it's something teachers all across America battle on a daily basis, is asking your students to quiet down during class. This activity allows them to chit-chat, but it also reinforces keyboarding skills and techniques. Here's how to implement this. Basically, put two students next to each other and tell them that you're going to give them 5 or 10 minutes to talk, and they're going to love that concept. But here's the kicker. They're actually not going to verbally communicate with each other. They have to, whatever they want to say to their partner, they have to keyboard it in, and that partner reads it off of the screen. So a really cool methodology that wasn't available when I was teaching keyboarding is something like you can use Google Docs for this exercise, because both students can have a document open and they can type live to each other and actually have a good conversation. And again, remember to stress that only appropriate conversations are allowed for the chit-chat keyboarding activity. But again, it allows you to recognize the students, hey, I realize you're human and you do need to communicate with each other, but yet you're still going to reinforce your keyboarding skills. So hopefully you implement that. Please provide feedback to us. You can reach us hashtag at #AskEdutyping, and through Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Love to hear your comments. And again, each week we field about 3 to 5 questions. And if we don't get to your questions, please let us know through email what your questions are, and we will be sure to get back to you if we don't do it here on air. So I'm joined off screen by my colleague, Rennie Sullivan, who is going to take and read this week's question.
Ralph Thompson from Massachusetts asks, how does a laptop keyboard affect typing speed?
Ralph, that's a great question. We get this all the time, and basically, you're in a computer lab more than likely with a standard desktop computer style keyboard, which the keys are usually raised up a little bit higher than that on a laptop. But basically, very tough for me to say how it can affect you, but there's definitely a different feel based on different keyboards from different manufacturers. Apple's keyboard, for example, has very flat keys with a very, very sensitive feel to them. So you just touch them and it'll key. Other keyboards, you have to strike a little bit harder. And laptops sometimes can feel like they're a little constrained and smaller than a standard keyboard. So what I recommend is, in order to have no effect on your typing speed, don't get used to just using the same keyboard all the time. If you have something that's different at home or in your school library, or you do have a laptop, try practicing some of your lessons and keyboarding on those different keyboards, and that will surely kind of get your eye-hand coordination and your motor dexterity skills and your fingers used to the feel and touch of the different sizes and shapes of different keyboards. Okay, let's take our second question of the week. Rennie?
Erica Rodriguez from Texas asks, what are some stress-free typing games or programs to help increase typing speed?
Well, first of all, Erica, the word stress-free, it's very difficult for me to recommend any game that's not stress-free, because most games have you competing against either the computer or a competitor. We have a product called NitroType, which is really cool, where you can register for a free account. And what NitroType does is it puts you in competition with other students from all over the world. You get to compete. But of course, there is a little stress involved, because what NitroType does is, as you're typing, you're controlling a car that goes around a lap, and you're competing against either the computer or other students. So obviously our quest is always to try to come in first or place in, the top 3. So there's a little stress involved, but it's a fun kind of stress. The other thing to remember is that all games, including those that are on EduTyping, there are a few there's one called Type-A-Balloon, I believe it's called. And there's very, very little stress involved with that. They're all geared to try to just get you to focus on having some fun while reinforcing those keyboarding skills that are very important in our society today. But what I will tell you is one thing to keep in mind. Part of keyboarding, so like when you take a timed writing test, for example, where you actually see the clock ticking down and you have to keyboard, keyboarding is all about efficiency and speed and accuracy. So there's always going to be a little bit of stress involved. And that's basically with anything. If you're taking a quiz in algebra or writing an essay for your English class, it's always all about, trying to get that best grade. And there always is a little bit of stress involved. But remember, it's just keyboarding. So take it for what it is. You'll get there if you're having any difficulties kind of improving your skill level. So that's my advice to you on the stress-free activities available for keyboarding. So we have time for one final question of the week, if you would, Rennie.
Christina Sullivan from California asks, is there any correlation between IQ and typing speed?
That's a great question, Christina. Is there any correlation, she asks, between an IQ test and the score that you receive and typing speed? And the answer to that is pretty solid no. IQ tests basically measure how much information your body can absorb. And it also deals with spatial recognition. And that's the only piece that I can relate to or correlate to your typing speed, is that on an IQ test, if you scored really high on spatial recognition, it's a good indicator that you probably have good eye-hand coordination and some good motor dexterity skills. But the IQ test does nothing really and means nothing as far as your ability to do well in typing class. Keyboarding is about repetition and practice, and over time improving that skill set. An IQ test is very isolated. It's a test that takes a very fixed short period of time, whereas keyboarding is a skill that you learn over time, kind of like when you were learning how to ride a bike. You start with training wheels, and eventually you don't need those training wheels. And again, that's the best analogy that I can give you. So to answer that question, if you don't have a high IQ, you still have a very good chance of being able to be good at typing. So that's all we have time for this week on Ask EduTyping. Again, if we didn't get to your questions, you can reach us through hashtag at Ask EduTyping through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And again, you can please visit edutyping.com. Our blog is packed with all kinds of good ideas, past episodes from our Ask EduTyping video show, and just a whole bunch of other goodies that'll help you perform well in the classroom and for you teachers to be the best that you can be. So take care. Until next week, everybody.